missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone. Love with heart.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So this week I have a fun video. We're going to be playing around with some rainbows. I am doing Jen's hair. You guys might recognize her from maybe like an old YouTube video. She is my old assistant and she is now on the floor doing her own clients at Butterfly Loft Salon. I am super proud of her, and so today we are going to be doing a combo of underlights and then doing a chunky money piece. For the placement of the money piece, I told her we should mimic kind of where her gray pattern is so that it kind of grows out nice and soft against her gray. And in the back, we're just going to be doing the underneath my standard underlight to the top of the ears. So we are going to be lightening her and then playing with some rainbow tones afterwards. So I'm starting off with my Blonde Me Schwarzkopf lightener that I use on majority of my clients, and the reason why I'm going to be using that lightener today is because she mostly has dark in the back. She doesn't have any highlights. It is completely solid, and then she told me that she might have some old color on the ends, so I needed something that was going to be relatively on the stronger side. So I chose to do my Blonde Me Schwarzkopf lightener and just making sure that I'm doing really thin sections for this type of application. So I'm going to be starting at the nape and just slicing up the head. When I'm doing my slices, I want to make sure that my slices are nice and see-through to make sure that I get a really clean, even lift. My first bowl of lightener is going to be a mixture of 6 volume and 20 volume just to kind of weaken that 20 volume, but the rest of the head I am just going to be using 20 volume on her because I feel like 20 volume is a good strength when lifting any type of hair. So as I'm doing this back portion, I am going to do this all the way up where I meet the top of her ears, and then that's when I'm going to start taking sections up the side, and this is just kind of like a basis of where I will start my underlight and then where it kind of ends in the back. Sometimes I do take it higher just depending if the client wants it a little bit higher, but she just wanted a little bit of pops in the back, so I just did my standard sectioning all the way to the top of the ear. And the reason why I do it to the top of the ear is because I want it to be at least high enough to where it connects to the sides, and the top of the ear is where I will start the sides on the next section in the front. So this is where I'm going to switch it up. So in the back, because she was completely solid, I did the Blonde Me Schwarzkopf lightener, but on the sides here I'm going to be using the Pulp Bright Cream Bleach because she does have some old bleached ends on the sides here, and I want to make sure to be a little bit more careful. Now I could have done cream all over, but I wanted the back to lift a little bit on the quicker side because she said she might have some color, so I figured I might have a little bit of an issue of trying to lift that. It's just my personal preference. I totally could have used cream, but I decided not to in the back just because I didn't want it to take too long. So I did the Blonde Me in the back because it is stronger, but I'm doing cream in the front because she has some previous lightened ends, and I do find that sometimes if you're doing like a solid application like this, I do find that sometimes the Blonde Me can swell. And since we're getting so close to her blonde areas, I can't have anything swell and overlap. So I'm using the Pulp Bright Cream Bleach, and I'm just using 20 volume with it. And the cream bleach is great because it doesn't swell, but also to ensure and a little safety net on those blonde ends is I put a little bit of conditioner to create some sort of barrier and then apply the cream on the areas that are darker. So on the sides, I'm just taking slices like how I did in the back, making sure that they're paper thin and just taking them up across the ear. So this part, I am going to go up until pretty much the temple of her head. And then that's when I'm going to switch over and start doing her money piece. But you can see I'm taking even like thinner sections here because again, we're using cream, something that's a little bit more gentle. So I want to make sure that I get really clean, even lift here. And then putting that conditioner on those previously lightened ends as just a little bit more insurance so that they don't get over processed. Another thing that I like to mention is that when I'm doing my underlighting technique, I normally like to have my foils laid flat. I do not like to fold my foils wherever there's hair. Sometimes I'll fold like the very ends if I feel like their hair is very fine and the section might like slip in the foil. But the very ends is just like kind of like the tip to like lock it in. Majority of the rest of the head, I do like to have it lay flat to make sure that I get a really clean lift and that so the product isn't moving around and creating any type of warm spots. So when I'm sectioning the sides of the head, I want to make sure that I can fit enough hair into the foil with leaving about an inch or like just a little bit less than an inch off the side so that I'm able to lock in those foils on the side. And then now I'm going to be going in and doing her money piece. So again, I'm just kind of following her gray pattern. She has a slight chunk of gray that is so perfect for this type of placement, and we're just going to be following that so it looks more on the natural side and just kind of blends in with that as that all grows out. So when I went to go check Jen, I felt like the root of her hair was ready for the back foils, but the ends needed a little bit more time. So I took out all the foils and started to kind of mush all the hair together. And I figured that I could just rinse the root wherever it was ready and leave the ends for a little bit longer just because they were a tad bit warmer. And you know, I could have totally just left the ends warmer, but it was really bugging me, and whenever I do any type of like solid application like this, I feel like I try my best to get it as even as possible. So I figured her hair felt fine, and I felt like it could take a little bit more lightening. So I went ahead and decided to just kind of like rinse the top portion where I felt like it was done and ready, and then left the lightener on the very ends to kind of keep letting that part process until it was all done. So you can see I'm lifting it out, holding the ends out, and then I just rinsed the root where it was all ready, and then I am going to just apply a little bit more lightener on those ends so that it helps catch them up to the root area. So once we were done lightening Jen's hair, it was time to start the fun part. So I had my assistant Emily help me apply the semi-permanent colors. So I was in charge of doing the color placement in the front, and Emily was in charge of doing whatever she wanted in the back with the rainbow tones that we chose. And when Jen first asked me to do her hair, she didn't really care what she wanted, and whenever anybody says that I have free range, I always immediately ask them if they'd be open to do some rainbow hair. And Jen was open to it, but she had some restrictions. She wanted the rainbow to be more on the muted side, which I was totally fine with. And she didn't want technically every color of the rainbow, but so we went and decided to start mixing, and she showed me some inspo pictures. So I mixed up some more toned down rainbow tones. So for her colors, to kind of tone them down, instead of adding in the opposite color, I decided to just add in like a gray tone to it to kind of smoke it out. And I could have totally added in the opposite tone, but I feel like that would have darkened it a little too much and maybe made it look slightly muddy. So I decided to just kind of smoke it out and add some of the gray semi-permanent color to kind of mute it out. So for my placement, I pretty much am taking slices and just overlaying some colors. It's kind of like baby lighting and mixing and blending those colors together. So I started off with the red and then did a yellow, and then melted that into a teal to a blue. And I did that because I kind of wanted to go with whatever blue she still had in her hair, and just kind of go with the fade of that. So that is why we chose this specific color placement. And then you can't see, but in the back Emily is doing vertical color placement just to kind of make it a little bit different from the placement that I'm doing in the front. And for her vertical placement in the back, she took about, I would say, maybe like 1 inch to 1.5 inch sections. And when she did her vertical parting, she did do a zigzag parting to create a more softer blended look. Alrighty guys, so here is Jen's hair. I absolutely love the way that this came out, and this is going to fade really pretty against what we lifted her to. I feel like this is so different and so fun for her, and such a nice change. We also gave her a nice trim to kind of dust her ends and kind of even out her layers a little bit, but I absolutely love the way that this came out. It came out like more of a muted, soft rainbow rather than a really loud, bright rainbow, which we loved as well. And I feel like this is just going to grow out really pretty against her natural and everything. Alrighty guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you guys next week.